Hey guys, this is going to be a short, simple message that I need to do, and I'm excited about it because there's a dream that I had earlier this week. And if you guys have me on Facebook, you probably know that I mentioned that I had a dream early this week, and I definitely want to share with you guys what I saw. And I think it's definitely a wake up call for this town to be more serious about Jesus, start preparing for his return. But in the meantime, making sure that our town and our school and our community is on track with God as well. We really need that. But let me get into this. These few scriptures I'm going to get into real quick. The name of this message is going to be "And Even If," rewind faith. And even if, and then in parentheses, rewind faith. And let me explain that real quick. You have people, I like to call them OPS, OPS. Other people are special. That's what it stands for. That's what I call them. But you have people who they have faith, but they have faith for other people. In other words, if they know someone who needs something from the Lord, if they're sick and they need a healing touch from the Lord, if they need a financial breakthrough from the Lord, if they need some type of miracle or blessing to partake in a person's life, they believe that for that person or those other people, but they have a hard time believing for themselves that God will do something for them. So they'll pray for other people. And if they're at church, they'll go and pray for other folks and lay hands on other people. But they have a hard time believing for themselves. They have a hard time praying things for themselves. And when other people want to pray for them, their heart is filled with doubt and unbelief because they just have a hard time believing that God will listen to them. They just feel like their prayers just go up and just come right back down. They just never make it past the ceiling. And that's how some people are. And like I said, I call them ops. Other people are special. They think that other people are special and worthy in God's eyes for help and attention, but they just don't believe it for themselves. And we talk about people like that often. You know, a lot of times people preach about people that just don't have faith for their own selves. Well, what I want to talk to you about in this message is people who I believe are spiritually related to those types of people, if that's how you want to put it. These people are people that I call folks that have rewind faith. It's just something I made up to describe this little issue that some people have, something that I call rewind faith. And what I mean is this: you have people who they have faith, but they only have faith in things of the past. Kind of like how you have the people that only have faith for others. Well, these people that have rewind faith, they have faith in the past. They believe that God can do amazing things, but he only did it back in the day. We're just not going to see it now. Not that God can't, but he just won't. You know, you have people that they just talk about how it was back in the day. Well, back in the day, God did this and God did that, and I saw God heal people, and I saw, all these miraculous things happen, and I believe this happened and that happened and this and that, but I just don't believe God's moving like that anymore. I just don't believe that God still does those miracles. I just don't believe that it's going to happen. It's just like God has given up on us, and I just don't believe God moves that way anymore. You have people that they just have that rewind faith. You start talking to them about faith or preaching to them about faith, and the only thing they want to talk about is the past. And don't get me wrong, it's good to talk about past things that God has done, to witness and to testify unto other people what God has done. Don't get me wrong, but what I'm saying is that's all that they have faith in is the past. That's it. They don't want to encourage you for right now, the present, or your future. They just want you to believe in what happened then, and then that's it. And then you even have people also who believe that the only big, wonderful, amazing things that God did was just in the Bible. They believe that in biblical times you had miracles happen. They believe that only during those times Jesus and his 12 disciples could lay hands on people and see them healed and see them revived and see demons cast out. But that's it. They just think that it was only something that played out in biblical times and that it just doesn't happen anymore. They have a rewind faith. They have a faith of the past. And so I'm here to tell you that it's important to not only, continue to believe in the things that happened in the past, but we need to have a right now faith and a faith for the future, not just staying stuck in the past. We should let our faith grow and expand and be stretched to where we believe more and more and more instead of believing less and less and less as the years go by. We need a stretching, forever expanding faith, not just a rewind faith. And so we need to be at a point where we can say, even now, and we can say, even if. We need to be able to say, and even if, even if that happens, I still believe. And even if that doesn't happen, I still believe. Even if things happen that way, I still believe that God can do something now this way. And even if he doesn't do it the way I think he should do it, I still believe it's going to get done. And even if God doesn't do something at the time or the day that I think he should do it, I still believe that it's still going to happen. You need to have an even if faith, the even now and the even if. Even if says, yeah, he did it then, but I believe he can do it now. Even if says, even if he doesn't do it right now, he's still going to do it eventually in his time, because his timing is perfect. So that's why this sermon is also called an even if. You believe even now he can do something, and you believe that even if it doesn't happen now, that it can still happen. So real quick, let's look at Hebrews. This is just a quick opening scripture. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 8. Here's the key. The key to having that type of faith, that even now and even if type of faith. Hebrews 13 verse 8. It says, Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. This is what we quote. We talk about God being a God that never changes, that stays the same, and he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. If he can be the same God yesterday, today, and forever, why is it that our faith sometimes is only stuck in the past, stuck in yesterday, when it should also be today and forever? Because God is also in today and forever, the past, present, and future. So why are we not moving forward with him? I'm sorry. Was that a wake-up call? Yesterday and today and forever. I love how they put the ands in there, even though it really don't even have to be in there. They could have just put yesterday, comma, today, comma, and then, and forever. They just kept putting and in there. So that's why I'm calling this and even if. Not just even if, and even if. And even if it doesn't play out that way, and even if that doesn't happen, and even if this does happen, I still believe. Because he seems to be an even now and even if God. And so let me go over to John real quick. Just going through these few verses quickly. John chapter 11. Go with me there. I'll take a sip of water real quick. Something that I find interesting, it seems like, and I've noticed this for a while now, it seems like I can do a sermon and a character might be the main character that I talk about in a sermon, and it seems like whenever I move on to different subject matters throughout my sermons. It's like that particular character will keep popping its head up for a while, and then I move on to another character, and then when I go on to other sermons that are on completely different subject matters, that character will keep popping up. Like for a while now, if you've listened to me for quite some time, you probably noticed that for a while now, it seemed like I kept referencing Elijah and Jezebel, and then for a while I kept referencing King Saul and David, and then for a while I was on John the Baptist. He kept popping up in my messages, and then for a while, if you've been listening to me more recent, you know that Mary Magdalene, I did a message on her, and then it seemed like after that she just kept popping up in my sermons. Moses and Pharaoh, they just kept popping up. And the last couple of sermons I did, I mentioned Lazarus, and in here I gotta mention Lazarus. So this will be the third time in a row talking about him, and then the second mentioning Martha. I don't know what the deal is. It's just like the characters, once I mention them, it's like they're playing peekaboo with me. Like, you know, I move on to something else and then they just pop out like peekaboo. You know, I don't know. It's kind of funny to me. But anyway, John chapter 11, verse 21, it says this: Then saith Martha unto Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. But I know that even now, here we are with even now, but I know that even now, whatsoever thou wilt ask of God, God will give it thee. So we see Martha, because we know how it is. Lazarus was the brother of Mary and Martha, and he died, and he was dead for 4 days, and then Jesus came on the scene. So it would have appeared to many that he came 4 days late, but of course we know that our God is an on-time God, and his timing is better than our timing. And so Martha says, you know, I believe that if you had came days ago, he wouldn't have died. So we see that she had faith in the past. And if she had said that in verse 21 and then stopped, she would be a prime example of somebody that only had that rewind faith, the faith of what coulda, woulda, shoulda happened back then, and that's it. But in verse 22, she says, but I know that even now, what I ask can still be given unto me. I still have that faith in God even now. So she's saying, even though things didn't play out the way they could have in the past, even now, I still believe that it can happen. So a faith for the past and for the present. Now look at this, verse 23. Jesus saith unto her, thy brother shall rise again. And that's how we should be looking at our country right now. A lot of people are concerned about the directions that our country is going in. And it seems like we're falling away from God more and more. But when I read this, as I was getting ready for this sermon, it just seemed like the word country kind of came to mind when I read brother. Even though she's talking about her brother, I kind of feel like I should be saying to you, thy country shall rise again. Your country, our country can be made whole again. Our land can rise again and be well again with God. It can, but we have to have the faith in believing that our land. We know how that particular verse that's always quoted in the Bible starts out. If my people, not people of the world, but if my people that are called by my name shall humble themselves, right? We know how that plays out. I will heal their land. We have to be the ones to stand up and make a difference. Not wait on the world and then get mad when the world is being the world. We as the church are supposed to be the church. So as the world does things, or like the show is called, as the world turns, as the world turns and does its stuff, we need to be the church and do our thing. But anyway, moving on, verse 24, Martha saith unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection of the last day. So we see now that Martha has faith for the future. She had it for the past and the present. Now she's saying, I know that he can rise again in that resurrection on the last day. And of course, Jesus goes on in verse 25 and 26 to correct her and say, I am the resurrection, and he had to correct her. But still, we see that she also still has faith for the future. So it's almost like she's saying, without saying it, it's almost like she's saying, and even if he's not risen from the dead now, I know that he will be later in the resurrection time. So she said, I believe then that if you had showed up, he wouldn't have died. However, even now, I still believe you can raise him up. And even if you don't now, I believe that you still can and will later. So even now, and even now, I still believe after it didn't take place. And even if it doesn't happen now, I believe it will still happen later. So not only do we see all these different faiths, the past, present, and future, but we see a moving faith, a faith that continuously moves forward. It didn't happen then, but I still believe it can now, and even if it doesn't now, it will happen. It's a faith that keeps moving forward. You have strong faith when you have expectations and you have it played out in your mind. Well, it might happen this way, it might happen that way. And so even when things don't play out how and when you think they should, but you still have the nerve and the audacity and the boldness to believe that God still can and still will, it shows that you have a faith that grows, that stretches, that expands, and a faith that moves forward with God. Yesterday, today, and forever. Not stuck in the past, and not even just sitting still in the present, but even moving forward into the future. When you can take what was of the past and continue to move it forward for the future, you know that you have strong, enduring faith. And so now, let's go to the last area I want to go to. It is Daniel chapter 3. I'll take a drink of water for those of you that need a moment to get there. Daniel chapter 3. We know this story. It's King Nebuchadnezzar. And we have Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And King Nebuchadnezzar, he has all his people worship these false gods, these golden images that he sets up. And he has a particular ritual for it. He has a certain day picked out, and when the music plays, all these instruments play, everyone is supposed to bow down to these idols that he chooses. But we have Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego who decide that they are not going to bow down and worship these false gods. They are only going to worship and serve the one true God, our God, the God of the Word, of the Bible. They're saying we're only going to worship him. And they are willing to put their life on the line, to stand their ground and say, we will not bow down to these gods that you serve just because you serve them. But let's look at this. Verse 13, I'm going to start there. It says, Then Nebuchadnezzar in his rage and fury commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, but if ye worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? So the king, King Nebuchadnezzar, has heard that there are a few folks that will not participate in worshiping the idols that he has created. He orders some people to bring those three to him. It's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he confronts them, openly confronts them, and says, really? You're not going to worship who I tell you to worship, what I tell you to worship? Really? Well, I tell you what. Here in a moment when these instruments start playing and you start hearing the music of this worship, I say, here to your face, that you better get down and start worshiping, because if you don't, you're going to be put in that huge fiery furnace. You'll be burned up. And what God do you think is actually going to save you from my hands? That's pretty bold right there. Listen, that right there is something to think about. Imagine being in their shoes and coming face to face with a king, someone who could have your life ended, someone who can have you persecuted and executed. Face to face telling you this is what you're going to do. You're going to worship my gods. And if not, you'll be burned alive. You really think the God that you're choosing to serve is going to save you out of my hands? Imagine being in that scenario. But look at this, verse 16. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. So they're telling him to his face, hey, we're not going to be timid about it. We're not going to walk on eggshells about what we have to say to you in response. And what we have to say to you is that we believe our God, big G, not little g, not false gods, but our God, the one true God who we serve, we believe that he will deliver us out of this furnace and out of your hands, king. But look at this. Here's the last verse I want to read. Verse 18, it says this, but if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. So they say, we believe our God will save us. We know that he can, but even if, get it? When they were saying here at the beginning of this verse, but if not, it's like they're saying that even if, and even if not, and even if he does not save us, even if he doesn't stop this right now, or even if after you put us in, he doesn't rescue us out or protect us, even if he does not save us, even if we don't walk out of this alive, we are still going to serve him. And even if you try to shove those false gods down our throats, we're still going to serve the one true God. And even if we do not make it out for you to try to force your gods upon us, let it be known that we still will never, would never worship your gods and give in to your peer pressure. And even if, that's how we need to be. So the question I have for you is, are you willing to serve God even if ... Even if ... Regardless of the circumstances, regardless of what life throws your way, are you still willing to serve God with all of the even ifs? Even if this happens, even if that happens, even if this does happen, even if that doesn't happen, will you still worship and serve him even if? It's not time for just a rewind faith. We need to move forward with God always. And now I want to share a couple of things that have happened this week, something that happened and then the dream, and I'll wrap this up. Well, last week, a buddy of mine said something to me on Facebook, and I won't say his name, but I'll just say a few things about him. There's a guy here in this town that I live in, and some of y'all might know him. Really, really cool guy, awesome guy. I mean, just funny. He's a funny character. He's somebody that'll definitely entertain you if you keep up with him on Facebook. He's always saying something goofy or crazy or funny. Just a really cool, upbeat guy. And he's very creative. He's been designing his own clothes for a while, and he put his own kind of line of clothing out there, and he set it up to where he can showcase it on the internet, and then people can buy his designs. And so he's got people in other countries, in other places, that are even buying some of his stuff. Also, there's a singer who he's really into, and this particular singer is into his stuff. So he's even got pictures posted up of this singer, and even a DJ in London wearing some of his shirts that he has designed. So, if you know him, you're probably going to be excited for him and think, okay, cool. That's really awesome. You're really creative. You're talented. You got other people out there, even people on a big scale out there wearing your stuff. That's a good promotion tool if you think about it. Other people that are already in the spotlight are wearing your stuff. You might not be famous yet, but you already have people that are famous that willingly want to wear your stuff. And that's really cool. And then here recently this year, he's been working on doing this mixtape where he's making songs and putting them together in a little collection, and putting it out there to where whenever you buy some of his stuff, you can get his music along with it as well for free. And so that's kind of a cool thing. So he's been putting these songs together, and it's just been really fun kind of watching him do his thing. He's very talented, very creative. Well, this particular guy, he was in band with me back in high school. We were both in band together. He was a percussionist, and I played the saxophone. And anyway, like I said, he had messaged me, or he didn't message me. He put up a post on Facebook and tagged me to it, and he was like, "Hey, Colby," he's like, I'm working on this mixtape, and I thought it would be cool if you played the sax. Do you still play your saxophone? And so I was thinking, oh, well, this is cool. He's inviting me to join in on all the cool stuff he's got going on. And so I was like, hey, let me get back with you on it. And I had gotten kind of busy over the weekend, and he had said he was going to contact me over the weekend, but it was Sunday when he contacted me, and I was real busy Sunday. So finally, Monday, I believe it was, I had finally responded to him, and I was like, hey, what's going on? Let me know the details of what all you got planned out. And he was explaining that there was a particular song that he was working on, and he said that it had this 80s kind of feel to it. And he was saying he thought it would be cool if I played some saxophone on it. However, he went on to explain that it was going to be a real potty mouth kind of song. So there's probably going to be some lyrics that probably a Christian doesn't need to be partaking in and being involved in the song. And so when he had texted me that, I was just like, oh my gosh, because he had even said in the text, he was like, I wanted to ask you, but I didn't know if it would be something that you would be interested in. And it was like he was saying without saying, I know that you're, a hardcore Christian. I know that you preach. And so I knew ahead of time before asking you that because of some of my lyrical content, you might not be interested in it, but I really thought I'd offer it to you anyway. It's kind of like what he's saying without saying it. And so I was just looking at my phone, and I was just like, oh man. And I was so bummed out because I was thinking, man, that's such an awesome offer that he would invite me to partake in this project that he's in. But I just can't do it. I can't because, I preach the word, and I can't just be involved in anything like I could have years ago. I can't be playing music on a track that I know is just going to have lyrical stuff that is very unchristlike. I got a standard that I have to live by. So I can't just be involved in anything. And I was just like, oh man. And I was just so heartbroken. And it took me a minute to just respond to him because it just hurt my feelings. It just hurt my feelings. But I was like, I texted him and I was like, I'm sorry, since I preach, I really don't need to be, getting involved with it. But I said, man, I know you're a talented guy. I know you'll do, good things. You'll go far. You're very creative. I'm happy for you, but I'm sorry, man. I can't do it. And but he understood. But I just wanted to bring that up to say, we as Christians, sometimes we have friends that they may mean well, but sometimes you can't always get involved in the things that they do because, people, the more you stand up for Christ and God and the things of the word instead of the world, people are going to watch you more and more and more to see if you're going to live by that example that you say or teach or preach. Even if you're not a preacher, still, when you start saying things about God and the word and how serious you are about it, it's still looked at as preaching or ministering in a way. So with that said, it's important for us to serve God even if you have to turn down some offers. You may have to turn down offers in this life. You will have to turn down deals. You will have to turn down opportunities. You will have to turn down contracts. Sometimes you will have to turn down some things so that you can continue to set the example, the Christian example, and continue to run the race that is set before us. Are you willing to do those things? Are you willing to say no to things of the world? Are you willing to serve God even if you have to turn down some things? Now, I want to share this dream and I'll wrap this up. Tuesday morning, I had woken up and I had a dream. And I had mentioned it on Facebook, but I want to go ahead and share in detail what I saw. In this dream, well, let me say this before I start it. Let me say this real quick. One of the things that I've heard be said about the church many times is that it's like a hospital. It's a hospital for the sick and the lonely and the broken and the outcast. It's a place where you can come and even though it might not be like our actual physical hospital, it's like a spiritual hospital. I'll put it to you that way. Because God is our great physician. And so going to church is like going and getting your spiritual healing. And sometimes, of course, a physical healing as well. But you get what I'm saying. It's like the spiritual version of a hospital, basically. And that's kind of the thing that I had been said about the church. It's something for everyone that is in need to come to the great physician, our God. So anyway, I had this dream earlier this week, and this is what happened. The dream took place here in my hometown here in Newport. And in this dream, I was in this building, and it was a school. And I didn't realize until later in the dream, but I was in this building, and there are these different rooms, because of course in a school you have classrooms that are back to back to back. And there's this woman that was there, and she was kind of like this heavy set white woman. She had really long hair. She had on this really long solid black dress. and she had these two guys following her around, one on her left side, one on her right. And I didn't get a really good look of the guys, but I think they were wearing maybe black suits, but they were wearing black as well. And they were there, and they were just kind of standing out there, kind of in the hallway, kind of in the middle of everything. And she was new there. I don't know if she was like a guest speaker or what, but she was there, and she was there to present some new type of learning to everybody in the school, the students in the schools. And she wasn't being specific, though. She wasn't being very detailed about what it was that she was bringing into the school to be taught. She was just letting everybody know, I'm here to bring this new thing that needs to be taught, and I'm excited about it. She was excited about bringing what it was that she was teaching into the school. So she had taught it to some folks, and the folks were going into these classrooms to teach it to the students. And so you could see through the glass of some of the rooms, you could see some people standing there, but you couldn't get a good look in, far enough of a look in to see exactly what they were doing. So I'm looking around, and I'm just kind of being nosy, and I'm looking and investigating and trying to see what's going on, but I can't quite see what's going on. I can't see what this amazing special thing is that's being taught. So I'm looking and looking. Anyway, the woman who was standing there with these two guys, she starts talking to me, and she's just smiling and grinning and all happy and just being so nice and polite. And she was saying, hey, why don't you join in? Why don't you come and learn this new thing that everybody's getting to learn here? And she was like, come on, it's just $1, just pay $1, come on, blah, blah, blah. And I've got change in my pocket, because all my money, usually I just keep it on my debit card, but I might have some change on me. And I was like, ma'am, I don't have $1, I'm sorry. And she was just like, well, come on. And she just kept insisting, and I was like, I don't have this money, I'm sorry. So anyway, I go to looking around, and I'm still looking, and I'm going down the hallway and looking in these rooms, and I'm still trying to see what this big special thing is that's being taught in the school now. So I'm looking and looking, and I still can't figure out what's going on. And so finally, after walking around, I run into this woman again. And she's still smiling. She's a little less enthusiastic this go around, but she's still kind of smiling. And she's like, hey, you got your money yet? And I was like, oh, no, I'll go get it, though. I'll go get my money, but I don't have it. And so I go back to looking around, because before I buy into something, I want to know what I'm buying into, even if it is cheap, just $1. I want to know what's going on. So I'm still trying to figure this out. Well, what I started to notice was this. Even though there were lights on everywhere, because of course it's a school, bright fluorescent lights, it just kept getting darker and darker. The atmosphere kept getting darker. So in the classrooms, even though through the glass I could see the lighting, I noticed that it was getting a little bit darker and a little bit darker. And when I saw that woman that last go around, because I saw her for the third time and she was sitting there with the guys, I noticed that even though lights were on, the atmosphere around them just kept getting darker and darker and darker, even though the lights are still on. And from a dream that I've had years ago, when I saw something like that play out, where you're somewhere where the lights are on, but the atmosphere around some people just seem to keep getting darker and darker and darker, and there's this really weird, eerie feeling that you get, that's a lack of God's presence right there. So I'm already kind of uncomfortable, and I'm looking around like, okay, like what, what's going on? So when I see her this third time, and I'm seeing this darkness everywhere, and she's looking at me, and I'm still just like, hey, I don't have that money yet. I'm still telling her I don't have the money, and at this point, she's not smiling, she's not being very welcoming to me anymore, she's not being mean or rude, but she's just kind of looking at me like, you're not going to get involved in this, are you? It's like at this point she's just kind of giving up on trying to get me to buy into this. So she's just kind of looking. She's not smiling and like, oh, come on. She's just kind of sitting there looking at me like, like you're just not gonna do it, are you? But she just kept trying before that, trying and trying to get me involved, and I'm just still looking around like, well, what's going on, you know? So it just kept getting darker. So anyway, what happened was suddenly I'm outside, and basically what had happened was this. You know, like how at school, if something special was happening, like for example, if the football team, if they had a really, really, really big game coming up, like maybe they were in the playoffs or something like that, the school would have this pep rally, but instead of it being in the gym, they would have it outside, and they would invite the people of the town to come. So it wasn't just for the students, it was for the whole town. If anybody wanted to come, they could come, and we would all be outside gathered around, and then you would have the band over there playing, and you'd have the football team there. They're all standing there in their jerseys looking all proud, and you got somebody on the microphone talking and saying, go Hounds, because that's our school mascot, the Greyhounds, and people getting all excited and cheering the team on, go team or something like that. But sometimes we would have that real special pep rally, and it would be during that last period. Instead of going to seventh period, everybody would gather around, and everybody in the town would come and see. So anyway, it was set up kind of like that. Everybody was outside, and a lot of the people, a whole bunch of people from the town had came, but it wasn't, even though it was set up like a pep rally, it wasn't something for the team, the football team, or nothing like that. It was for this woman that I'm telling you about, because there was like a platform there. We're all outside, but there's like a platform there on the ground, and it looks kind of like during the Olympics, when you got people competing, and then they give out the gold, the medal, and the silver, the gold, the bronze, and the silver medals, and then they have, the first place, second place, third place person go up to this platform, and it's like a platform, and part of it goes up over here, and part of it goes up over here, but in the middle, it goes up the highest, and the one who is first place and gets the gold medal gets to stand up in the middle on the tallest one, and then second and third are on the sides of the platform that don't go up quite as high. You know what I'm talking about? It was kind of a platform kind of like that. And you had, because remember I said the woman had the two guys with her. There was a guy here and a guy here, but in the middle was the woman. She was the one on the highest platform, and she was just sitting there, and it was like everybody had came as if it was a pep rally, but instead of cheering the team on, they had came to see what this woman had to say, because this woman, it was like everybody was waiting on her to make this big announcement about something. So I'm outside with all the people that just came, because I never got involved with whatever was going on inside of the school. So now I'm just standing outside with everybody else, the townspeople, so that whenever it's announced to them what's going on, because she's about to make an announcement and make it public what's been going on in the school, I'm standing out there with everybody, because I'm thinking, I want to hear too, because when I was in there, I wasn't told anything. So I'm going to stand out here with the people just coming up to the school, you know what I mean? Standing out there with them, like I'm standing out here with y'all, because I want to know too. I was in there and I still don't know what's going on. So we're fixing to find out together, So we're standing out there, and so the crowd quietens down, and the woman stands up, and she's got the crowd's attention, and instead of just going and explaining into great detail what she's been teaching, she decides to demonstrate what has been taught. So she stands up and she starts doing this stuff with her hands, right? She puts her hands in the air, she's doing all this stuff. Okay, you know how in a lot of cartoons or like Disney movies or something like that, where you have a witch and she has like a magic wand or something, and she waves it around and she says something that rhymes or something like that, and she's trying to cast a spell, And even though it's a spiritual thing, not something that you necessarily see when it happens, you just see the effects of it. What they'll usually do is they'll use some type of special effect, like some colors that look almost like fireworks or something, but there'll be like these little colors that pop out of the wand to represent something happening right before you see the effect of it play out. Well, that's what happened. She didn't have a wand in her hand, but she was doing this stuff with her hands, and just like it would on a cartoon or an animated movie, you could see these colors, these little sparkly colors appear, and it was like she was casting a spell, right? So as she's doing this, all the people, a whole bunch of people in the crowd that are watching, they're all, oh, wow, ooh, like they're oohing and ahhing about what they're seeing. So she's got the crowd all hyped up and excited about this. So basically she's showing that what she has brought into the school really is this type of witchcraft. So what happens is she points to the gym, and when everybody turns to looks, the doors are wide open. The lights are on, because they have to be on, because they're trying to welcome people of the town into the gym so that they can start to learn what the students have been learning. So obviously the lights are on, but it was completely black. It was pitch black. So when I look and I see the open doors, all I saw was just pitch black, as if there were no lights on at all. And even though we're outside and it's a hot summer day, I mean, it was hot out there, it was a hot summer day and the sun is shining, you would think that maybe because of the brightness outside, you could see, some silhouettes of some bleachers or something going on in the gym. You couldn't see jack squat. Now, evidently people saw it, because they went running inside, and you would think the people would be like, well, I don't want to run in there if it's pitch black. But evidently they could see what was going on. Evidently I was looking at it from a spiritual point of view, and I was just seeing nothing but, you get it, a lack of God's presence, just pitch black. That's all I saw. I just saw the darkness in the gym. But everybody else, they're just running in. I'm talking people were just running in to go and learn what she had just demonstrated. So after a whole bunch of the people of the town run into the gym, and of course I can't see nothing, I just see black, and so it looks like they're just running into darkness, which spiritually that's what they were doing, running to be and partake in the powers of darkness. All I saw was black, and then all I saw were these sparkles, these little colors flashing, because the people had started getting involved in the stuff. See what I'm saying? So I'm standing there, I'm seeing this, and it's just blowing my mind. So even though people just ran in there, a whole bunch of people ran in there to be involved in this stuff, some of the other people of the town ran in the opposite direction. They were like, we ain't having nothing to do with any of this. I mean, they're running. And I'm running too, and I'm seeing people getting in their cars, and they had gotten their kids too. So it was like they had gotten their kids out of the school and was just like, no, we're fixing to get out of here. We ain't, none of us, not our family at all. We're fixing to get out of here. Kind of like that verse in the Bible that's talking about, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. They're like, I'm getting my kids. We're fixing to, we ain't participating in that. So the people were getting in their cars and leaving. So some of the people went in the gym. Some of the people were like, we ain't having nothing to do with it. I start taking off running. And what I keep saying to myself is, there's got to be a church. There's got to be a church. There's got to be a church. I'm running around the town looking for the nearest church. That's all I can think about is going to the house of God. So I'm running, and I get to a street where I see churches. But all of a sudden, when I see them, I stop running. And all I can think to myself is, they're not open. They're not open. And if you think about it, it made sense. It was a school day, so it wasn't Sunday. And even if it was Wednesday, because of course we have church Wednesday nights, you know what I mean? The school hadn't even officially been dismissed yet. So it's still in the middle of the day. We're still hours away from a church opening to have Wednesday night service. So there's no church open. All the churches are closed at this point. So I'm just standing there thinking, they're not open. None of the churches are open. And right then and there, what I kept hearing myself say spiritually in my spirit, and I heard it as loud as I'm talking to you right now, is I kept hearing myself say, there's got to be a church open all the time. There's got to be a church open all the time. And there always has to be preaching going on. Somebody always has to be preaching. It's got to happen. We have to have it for the people. We've got to have it for the people. And I just kept hearing that. And when I woke up, and I'm going to tell you how the dream ended here in just a second, but when I woke up, the first thing that I thought of after thinking about that dream was something that I had heard a preacher here in Newport say years ago. I remember him saying it like it was yesterday. He had said that he believed that there was going to come a time where here in this town there would be a church that was open 24/7, and that there would be preaching going on all the time because the town was going to need it. And I just sat there in bed like, wow. He was right. The same thing he said years ago was the same thing I was saying in my spirit in that dream. There's got to be a church. The people are going to need it. We got to have some preaching going on all the time. At any time, somebody can walk in and get fed the word of God at any time, because we're going to need it. We're going to need it in this town. But back to the dream. Let me tell you how the dream ended. All those people that got in those cars and left and said, we ain't gonna have nothing to do with this, since there weren't any churches open, guess where those people ended up? At a hospital. Right after me running around and seeing that none of the churches were open, for some reason, the first instinct that I had was to go to a hospital. And all those people that I saw gather in those cars to leave, all of them were right there in that hospital. Because there wasn't a church. That's a mouthful right there, guys. If that don't just wake you up, I don't know what to tell you. I don't even know right now. I don't even know what to tell you. If that dream, if none of what I said, it does something to you in your spirit right now, I don't know what to tell you. But let me tell you, that should be a wake-up call. Guys, are you going to serve God even if some things come into this town that don't need to be in this town? Will you serve God even if it seems like the majority start agreeing with the powers of darkness? Are you going to serve God even if, and even if, and even if, and even if, and even if? We've got to be a people that will serve God even if, no matter what, even now. I know you probably hear people say this all the time, but we need to be praying for the return of Jesus. And I don't mean to sound cliche, but I agree. We need to be praying not only for a move of God, a true revival of God moving. I'm not talking about some man-made revival. I'm talking about a true revival where people have a heart of repentance, where we come back to God, where we come together as a community and really mean it. We need that. We're going to need it. For the times coming ahead, this isn't to scare people, it's just to wake people up. For the times coming ahead, we're going to need it. I thank you all for listening. Heavenly Father, I thank you for another time to minister another word. Lord, I love you. I thank you. I appreciate you and all that you've done and all that you do. Lord, I just pray that this message would be one that will wake people up, that people would be willing to serve you no matter what, that they would serve you even now, that they would serve you even if something goes wrong, something bad happens. They're part of the minority instead of the majority. If things don't happen the way they wanted to or when they wanted to, that they will serve you still, even if. I thank you, God. I give you all the praise, glory, and honor, and Lord, have mercy on us, not only as a country, but just in this town. Have mercy on us as a community, Lord. I just give you the praise, glory, and honor. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.